We light this flaming chalice to illuminate the world we see. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. The spirit of fire is not with us. Hanging on wick. He's dying. No, doesn't want to do it. All right, somebody's holding their mouth wrong, as my grandma would say.
When you have the little ones.
Yeah, the little one can suffice now.
There we go.
Blow it out.
Flounder around here and blow out the chalice. Now we'd like to sing out our children. We have some children ready to go. Is Autumn with us? Okay. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. I'll turn it over to Mike for a little simmering music for us. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you. Jane McAllister Pope is with us today as our guest speaker. Jane has survived 37 years at the Charlotte Observer and retired after that number of years. And now she's just gone. She served as Deputy Editorial Page Editor, and then toward the end of her sentence, she served as Night News Editor. We talk about that in my business too. We're sentenced. And Jane has a message today for us that's particularly relevant for these times, I think, and that is, how can we hold on to hope when so much darkness is around us? Jane?
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Oh, it is afternoon. Good afternoon. This morning, I turned on the news and I watched an interview with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. And I realized I have no business talking about hope. Ukraine will win, he said. As missiles flew and civilians died, it's what we hear over and over from that country. Hope and courage almost beyond belief. But I said I would talk about hope today, and I will. But for the real thing, even under fire, look to Ukraine. When I was growing up in the 1960s, I had no doubt that society was on an upward trajectory. Racism would vanish as we came to know one another's worth. Wars would cease as we learned from past horrors. Poverty would ease as the millions of dollars we spent on warfare would go instead to caring for one another. Astronauts would explore the expanse of space, and medical researchers would defeat the scourge of cancer. Religions and political parties would coexist in peace. Skirts would get ever shorter. I thought that was a good thing at the time. And of course, cars would fly. So much to hope for. The problem with hope, though, is that it is so easily dashed. Take a look, if you dare, at the world of 2022. Instead of an enlightened utopia, we have front row seats to a race by the four horsemen of the apocalypse. After pestilence takes the initial lead, war makes a sudden surge, and famine seems destined to pull ahead. The ultimate winner, death. As the woman in a New Yorker cartoon said, "My desire to be well informed is currently at odds with my desire to remain sane." Even I, a former journalist, agree with that. Do you remember how it felt when a vaccine for COVID-19 was announced? I was thrilled. We have conquered the pandemic. Humanity's dedication to scientific inquiry triumphs. I failed to factor in the ability of so many people to reject that gift. So now, the US alone nears 1 million reported COVID deaths. And that's probably an undercount. In retrospect, my reaction to the vaccine seems as naive as the labeling of World War I as the war to end all wars. World War II quickly put an end to that optimism. But is it better to assume that nations will keep killing one another, or to dream of a time when we will beat our swords into plowshares and our missiles into bridges? Any hope that racism is behind us has been shattered by police shootings and the angry defensiveness of white supremacists terrified of losing privilege. And the news from Ukraine breaks my heart. Children killed, families separated, survivors terrified. A democratic nation faces huge odds against the Russian invasion. There's even talk of possible nuclear war, which has been unthinkable since my childhood. Don't we remember that no one wins? And then there's climate change. As it continues unchallenged, humanity and Earth itself seem doomed. So what possible reason do we have to hope? How is it possible to hope? I think first it's important to remember what hope is not. It is not looking at the world through rose-colored lenses. It is seeing devastation clearly and trusting that it's not the final word. Hope is not positive thinking that magically changes reality. It is a way of seeing that transforms our own relation to that reality. It requires holding both our fears and our expectations lightly. When fears consume us, they stifle hope. Expectations tie hope to a specific outcome. And life eventually teaches even the most stubborn optimist that positive thinking doesn't keep the monsters away. But when we can let go just a little of our need to control life into perfection, we are more likely to find the hope and strength to deal with whatever the world sends our way. Hope is an open posture, not the fetal position of fear or the fists of rage, but the open hands of welcome and acceptance. What, you say? You want us to accept the evils and failures of society? Of course not. Not if acceptance means approval or passive resignation. But if acceptance means putting aside those rosy lenses of expectation and seeing the world in all its broken, messy truth, yes, we can only take effective action to change society's path with clear vision and open hands. Hope is the passion that motivates us to use those hands to act, whereas despair leads to weariness and apathy. Hope gives us the flexibility to be resilient in troubled times. It gives us the confidence to believe that not every surprising change is for the worse. Sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is not an oncoming train. In the words of Irish poet Seamus Heaney, history says, don't hope on this side of the grave, but then once in a lifetime, the longed for tidal wave of justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme. Are you having trouble finding hope these days? Me too. Mr. Rogers' advice was to look for the helpers. They're in Ukraine, where the courageous defend the helpless, and hope is a weapon stronger than tanks. They are in Poland, welcoming refugees from the war. They are working food banks here in North Carolina. They are marching for voting rights and racial justice. They are welcoming society's outcasts. They are building fences for dogs. They are the hands of hope. Free the dogs. The tiniest act of resistance to oppression is the embodiment of hope. So is the smallest act of kindness, of compassion. Paleontologist and anthropologist Lauren Isley famously wrote of walking the beach on a day when hundreds of starfish had washed up on the shore, where they were sure to die. From afar, he saw another walker on the beach stoop to pick up one of the starfish and fling it back into the sea where it could survive. Then he threw another and another. When he was close enough, Isley asked the man why he bothered. It wouldn't really matter, since he could only save a few. The stranger replied, "It matters for this one." And he threw it into the waves. And Isley mused that this is what makes us human. Small acts of compassion make hope real. Historian and activist Howard Zinn wrote this in his 2002 autobiography. To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty. It is based on the fact, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. What we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places, and there are so many, where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending this spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is an infinite succession of presents, and to live now as we think human beings should live in defiance of all that is bad around us is itself a marvelous victory. So how can this fellowship of Lake Norman Unitarian Universalists nurture hope? As it turns out, hope is easier in community. When one of us sinks into fear, others can be resolute. When one of us struggles to imagine a better day, others can summon that vision. When we are stronger together, we can act with greater impact together. We can hope together. Stephen Charleston is a Native American elder and a retired bishop in the Episcopal Church. He's well worth befriending on Facebook for the wisdom he shares. This is what he posted Monday. Come within the circle, all you who have been standing before the wind, chilled to the bone by what you have seen, tired to your soul for the sake of those who have been swept away, weary of war, watching another crack in the foundation of our history. Come within the circle, come now, for all are welcome and none turned away. There is room for you here, friends who care, healing of mind and spirit, nourishment for the faith that keeps you strong. Come within the circle, the embrace of the love we share, and find the hope you thought had gone away. Here, within the circle, waiting for you to take it up once more. In this circle, may hope sustain and encourage you, no matter the darkness, no matter your disappointments, no matter the daunting challenges we all face, no matter the headlines. Choose hope and heal the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
She's my friend.
Well, that's wonderful to know, Pat. Just keep right on sharing. We will now gratefully accept this week's gifts. And who has the best gift? Thank you. May these gifts strengthen our purpose and our ability to be a positive force for love, justice, and peace in our community. I have some announcements I want to share with you, and these are in your order of service.
The song, we need another song for Mike.
Well, you want to do another song before our closing song?
Or there's a musical reflection.
Well, are you ready to reflect?
I'll reflect if you want to reflect with me.
I'll reflect with you. Yes,
right.
okay. Thank you, Jim. Getting us back on track. We do that often, don't we?
There's someone, I think everybody knows this song. Love is but a song we sing, fear's the way that you can make the mountains ring, or make the angels sigh. Though the bird is on the wing, and you may not know why. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Some may come, some may go, we will surely last. When the one who left us here returns for us alive, we are but a moment's sunlight beating in the grass. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. If you hear the song we sing, you will surely listen. You hold the key to love and fear, all in your trembling little hand. Just one key unlocks them both. It's there at your command. It's there. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Yeah. Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now. Try to love one another right now. Try to love one another. Right now.
Well, after further reflection, I am determined to read these announcements. So, if you're a visitor with us, welcome. We're glad you're here. And you're welcome. Everyone's welcome to stay after the service and meet our members and our guest speaker. And if you'd like information about joining our congregation, you can speak with Marge Flowers, who's over here. And she also has information out at the table when you first came in. Now, you may have seen some really cool things out in the lobby also when you came in. Our children's group is working with the Harry Potter theme, as you know, and they are battling the sickness horcrux by making some homemade items that they are selling in support of St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So stop by and check them out. There's a soup mix, there's some lavender bath sachet, there's some little bath rubber duckies if you would just like to, feel more comfortable in your bath. So please go by and check those out. You can also get more information on the Children's Spiritual Education Program in the newsletter or speaking to Autumn. I did want to recognize again the Heart of the Animals, Heart of the Carolinas Animal Ministry. The next fence build will be March 26th. And you can look on the Facebook page to see where that will be and to be able to volunteer or find out anything more that they may need. Next week, there will be a meeting after the service about what it takes to create our experience on Sunday mornings. So if you're interested in volunteering with setup, serving as a worship leader, helping in any way, that would be a good meeting to attend, and there'll be more information in the newsletter. And we had another happy spring note that has been noted here. Last week was our first in-person gathering, as you know, after quite some time. We welcomed 30 adults and 6 children at our first meeting last week. So that was wonderful. Okay, our closing song is number 118, This Little Light of Mine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Thank you. And our closing words today, bam, someone hit. Our closing words today come from a Japanese writer named Lin Yutang. Hope is like a road in the country. There never was a road, but when many people walk on it, it comes into existence. And I'd like to extinguish the chalice with a quote from Nelson Mandela. May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. It's still alive in there. So mote it be.